Welcome to Season 2 of Heart of the Gulch. On today's episode, we sit down with iHeart Country's rising star radio host, Brooke Taylor, with the Big 98. In today's Walk the Line episode, Brooke gives us a behind-the-scenes look at the Big 98 studios located on Music Row. Let's check out the episode. We are in the heart of the Gulch, and oh my goodness, today, this week's episode, we got a good friend of mine, not only a great friend of mine, we got to record her day in the life, and then after we recorded the day in the life, we're like, oh snap, we need to rerun this back, and I'm happy too because we recorded our initial interview in January 23rd, but now we're in the middle of May. You guys will see this literally the week after CMA. Woo! And we got the one and only from the Big 98, Brooke Taylor in the building.
Hey!
Brooke, how you doing?
I paid him to be that nice to me. That was so sweet. Thank you for that intro.
What you mean? That's my job. My job is to hype you up.
Yes.
Now, like you hype everyone up on your social medias.
Yeah.
You do it so, man, damn, we're just going straight into it. Every time I look into your social media account, it's Brooke Taylor Radio.
Just Brooke Radio.
Brooke Radio. Mm-hmm. Man, you show off everything from, your family to you getting ready to you also creating an amazing podcast. Congratulations.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah. How do you do it, man?
I feel like when I first started in radio, my boss at the time was like, what is your brand? Who do you want to be? And I always said, I want to be someone who makes other people feel good. I don't want to be just that person who's like self-glorifying myself. I don't want to be, a quote unquote influencer that is just trying to make money. I want you to come to my page and feel like you're a part of my family, that you're a part of, my life, and that if anything else, I can just make you smile during the day. That's literally it. So, I mean, it comes with its challenges for sure. So I don't know how I quote unquote do it all, but it's fun. I really do enjoy it.
You do so many things though. So for example, I mean, obviously we've had this conversation before, but yeah, it's been so long. January 23rd, does that kind of freak you out that it was that long ago when we had a conversation?
When we were just talking about it before we started recording, I was like, how? That felt like over a year ago. And it was like not even 6 months ago. So yeah, it's crazy.
You getting ready for CMA Fest?
Oh, yes. Our schedule is packed, jam-packed, which it's always a fun week. But I know by the end of the week, myself and my coworkers are all ready to nap for like 4 days.
So the Big 98, I'm not sure. Can you tell the people? I guess they'll already have experienced it. But, what is the Big 98 doing for CMA Fest?
We have a bunch of things that we're doing. We have different hosting opportunities throughout the week. So I'm going to be emceeing the celebrity softball game over at First Horizon Park, which is fun.
That's going to be fun.
And then on Saturday during Fanfare X, I'm going to be hosting one of the stages inside. So that will be fun. And then some of my coworkers, Wayne and Tay, they'll be hosting like at Nissan Stadium and some of the other stages. But we'll have a presence on site like Broadway. Mm-hmm. But we haven't quite fine-tuned all those details yet. So there's going to be some surprises in store, but we're excited.
You still got some time too. I mean, well, not necessarily. You got less than a week.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that she's on the show today because I can only imagine your brain is going around the clock right now.
Oh, totally. I mean, CMA Fest is the week of all weeks in Nashville, especially for country music fans. And the amount of artists that are in town, I mean, everybody's here. The shows that they put on at Nissan each year is just, they're unreal. They're incredible. It's like you're never going to see all of these artists on one stage,
one location
in 4 days, so
God, it's nonstop.
It's really great.
Now, I'm curious because at this point, how many CMA Fests have you done at this point?
Okay, so I just moved to Nashville in 2020. So this is only technically my third.
That's true. You know what? I've known you so long now that I did a terrible job of introducing exactly where you're from. So give everyone originally where you're from and all the traveling that you have done.
Dude, my life is crazy. So I've been in radio for like 12 years now. I started in 2011, and which sounds crazy because I'm not old.
I'm getting deja vu right now. This is crazy to me.
But It's funny because I started in college, obviously, we talked about, I started in college, started my college radio station with one of my professors and just kind of developed a love for radio, moved to Florida and then did nights at a station in Florida. And then I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, then out to LA for a couple years, back to the Midwest, then Chicago, and then now Nashville. So I've just kind of like moved everywhere for my job, which is in radio specifically. It's like you kind of move where the opportunity is if you want to grow, because it is not very common that you live in a big town. Like say you're from Chicago. It is not a common thing for you to be from Chicago and be on Chicago radio. You have to kind of like move around for the gig, which is what I did. And here I am in Nashville living my dream job. So it's
You know what? I love that. But, I'm not going to let you off the hook without talking about your mentor.
Yes.
That you met. And I believe this was in college, right? So talk about that mentor.
It was actually right out of college.
Right out of college.
Yes. So there's this guy who basically listened to me. Back in when I first started radio, Facebook was like the big social media. So Facebook was where kind of you networked and where you just met people or tried to like meet other people in radio and stuff. So there was this group called Radio Peeps on Facebook where we all kind of just like put all of our info up there, like, hey, if you're looking for a job, or hey, if you know anybody who's looking for a job, here's my info, right? So I was in Florida, and in Tampa, this guy named Tommy, he was there, Tommy Chuck. He basically was like, hey, send me your air check, which is a little scope of my show. Send me your air check and I'll listen to it and I'll help you like improve. So every month I sent Tommy Chuck one of my air checks and he air checked me, which is basically where they kind of give you feedback and help you improve. And he did. And we did that, back and forth all the time. And then we stayed in touch when I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then we stayed in touch when I moved to LA. And then we stayed in touch when I moved back to Indiana. And then he basically calls me out of the blue one day and he's like, there's this job you're going to go for. And I need you to I need you to take this interview. And so originally I was like, I'm not sure I want to live in Chicago. I don't think that this is for me. And I get a phone call from Tommy and he's like, listen, this is going to be one of those conversations where you listen to me and you don't say anything. And I was like, okay. So I'm on the phone. I'm like, okay. And he's like, you're going to go take the interview. You're going to crush it. Like, you're too big for this small market you're in. You need to be a part of iHeartCountry. And I was just like, okay. So I went and I took this interview and I ended up loving Chicago and my coworkers there. And I mean, the rest is history. I got the job and I've now been with iHeart for like 5 years now, 6 years almost.
And that's amazing within itself because we all know that iHeart has, in time, it's going like any business, and I think that when you have a personality that they really do want to see grow, they invest in you
100%.
And you feel that way. And I mean, obviously coming from Chicago with iHeartCountry and then transitioning to Nashville, the home of, country music. I mean, tell me about just that experience of just seeing the difference in the two cities there.
I mean, it's been crazy. Like, God planted the seed of Nashville in my brain or in my heart back when I lived in California. Like, there was just this weird sense of, I want to be in Nashville. And I remember I was on this little like music in our schools tour, which was something that we did with Raylan, actually, which I know you're going to have on the podcast.
Well,
I love her.
That's not for a while, though. That's not. You are coming out literally in 2 weeks. Raylan, you're giving the people my secrets.
Sorry. She's one of my best friends. She told me that she's so excited to be on the podcast. So she's ready. She's excited.
I love it.
But Ray and I, we actually met when I lived in California and we did this thing called the Music in Our Schools tour. And basically it was like we traveled on a tour bus for 9 days and we went to different cities each day and we basically presented checks to all of these high school, middle schools, their music departments. And then Raylan performed and I like hosted the show and the Q&A like during her song set. Yes. And we ended the show, like the whole tour, we ended it in Nashville at the Grand Ole Opry.
That's crazy.
And I remember being backstage at the Opry, like, this is awesome. This is like,
they set it up so like, all right, for the people that are watching this, obviously a lot of people that watch this are watching this from Nashville, but the people that are not watching this in Nashville, that are in Texas and crazily enough, Washington State, the state of Washington.
Let's go. Shout out to Washington.
Now, the Opry is, and I didn't realize this until I moved here. You got to experience it before, but it's a special place when it comes to musicians.
100%. And then the dressing rooms, how they like honor all of the artists who've been there. And I mean, there's just like the legacy, the just star power that are on those walls in the Opry.
Different ones too.
Yes.
So each one has so for the people who've never been backstage, which you can do a tour backstage to check it out. They do a great video before you get even on the tour. And but you go backstage, not to cut you off there.
No, you're fine.
All of the dressing rooms have their own name and their own vibe, right?
Yeah, it's like they honor different artists and different people, and it's one of the coolest places. So like you can imagine walking in the artist entrance backstage at the Opry. You just walk in and you're like, wow, like it's like Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and like all these people are on the walls and you're like, what the heck? And then I remember standing side stage and Ray was performing a couple of songs, but Vince Gill was on stage that night. And I just like remember my like childhood flash before my eyes because I grew up listening to country music. And at the time I was in like top 40. So I was in like Ariana Grande, Shawn Mendes, like all these, Fifth Harmony, like that
this
vibe.
Is in LA.
Yeah, this is when I was in LA. Yeah.
Right.
So, I'm used to playing all these like teeny bop songs on the radio, and I was standing side stage and Vince Gill starts performing and I literally just start crying and I just had this emotional experience and I was just like, what is happening? And it was just like country music just makes me feel some type of way, and I love country music. It's what I grew up on. It gives me all of my favorite memories growing up with like my grandma who's passed away, like my mom and dad. And I just was like, I want to live in Nashville. And I was like, at that moment, I was just like, that's my goal. And I mean, it took me like 6 more years to get there, but it was so cool to like go back and relive that memory of like standing side stage, watching Vince Gill perform at the Grand Ole Opry. I was like, this is crazy.
That deserves a Ric Flair.
Woo! Yeah. And that's literally what happened. So I don't know. God planted that seed. Gave me all the right doors to walk through, and here I am. So it's been really cool.
This is why this was one of my funnest interviews, and I'm happy that we're redoing it too, because man, we have so much that we can talk about.
Yeah.
And not only that, I love the fact that you have such a love for country music. And now, granted, I grew up listening to rap.
Yeah.
And hardcore rap.
I mean,
right?
I did too.
Yeah. We grew up in the same time frame. Right.
Yeah.
2003 was my time.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that they played Get Low in like middle school dances.
It's funny because my husband Andrew and I will talk about this all the time. I'm like, what are these kids listening to? And then I'll listen to like Usher Confessions and I'm like, yo, we were listening to songs about homeboy having a like side chick and like getting her pregnant.
This is the craziest thing. Not saying that I'm thinking about this at all, but I'm going to just say it right here. It's weird to me that in 6th grade, you remember the big circles that they would do? And then and it would be literally grinding circles.
Yes.
Of girl and guys just grinding. This is a 6th grader.
Yeah.
That grosses me out.
It's gross, man. Well, and
People did it.
It's funny because I'm like, remember back, I've said this before. Remember when we're back in the day and grinding meant something different? Like now we're like, oh yeah, I'm grinding. Like I'm working so hard. And back in the day, it was just like, you were grinding. Like that was it.
Not only that, it's twerking.
Oh God.
Now twerking there's really no participation in that. Now It's just people just sitting up and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But back then, yeah, you're right. So to bring back,
was interesting times.
That was an interesting segue for me to go to your love for country. What is it about country music? Obviously, you said it had to do with family. And is it because country music versus the pop charts that are in today, there's just something, the stories, or is it the way that it's written, or how is it performed?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I feel like whenever I go to a country concert, there's always an emotional experience during the show. There's always that one song that feels like it was written for you, that just like tells the story of your life. And I don't know that I've ever gotten that with other genres. And I feel like country music in general too. I mean, you won't watch an award show and hear any other genre thank the radio. The
previous too.
Yeah.
They do such country music respects the past.
Yeah.
And that is something that in all different genres, that's not a normal thing.
No, yeah. And I feel like country music really is a giant family, and family is so important in my life. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I have like 8 nieces and nephews, and my parents have been married for, almost 40 years, I think. And it's just like that family aspect of country music and just the storytelling and the way that it'll make you feel something.
Yes.
You know, and then there's those summer anthems that just make you want to go drink a beer on a boat.
Beer
you
and
know?
on a boat and shotgun a beer on the boat.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
But it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel at home. It makes me happy. It makes me grateful for life. It makes me feel all the things.
And it takes you back. And that's one thing that I can definitely say about country music. Now, I'm curious because we had this conversation a while ago, but I'm so curious about, you know, when you were in LA and you were doing, you know, obviously it was the Justin Biebers and the Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez.
Or Demi Lovato.
Now she's a billionaire.
Yep.
That's dope. Yeah, I wish that happened to me within the past 10 years. But, you know, what was it like to do a totally different type of music where it was all pop? And I'm guessing you must have seen some of these celebrities in person too. And they're probably not as what everyone thinks.
I mean, you'll have that with any genre where you go in thinking, and that's why I refuse to meet Justin Timberlake because he's like my favorite person in the entire world. Like I grew up a huge NSYNC fan, like how these girls are obsessed with Taylor Swift and One Direction.
Oh, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift. I saw you go to that.
that was mine. NSYNC was mine. Justin Timberlake was my guy. And they say never meet your idol, or not your idol, never meet who you love so much because you don't want to be disappointed. And my thing within, you know, interviewing and meeting all these artists, like when I lived in LA, I met them all. Like I was meeting, you know, all of Angelina Jolie. I was meeting Ben Affleck and like all of the stars of Avengers, like anything that had to do with Disney. Cause I had worked for Disney. I met them all the Disney Channel, like kids, Shawn Mendes, like fun fact, when he was like famous on Vine, which also is a fun fact, like 3-second videos. Remember that when that was a thing?
Think about how TikTok in a way just saw that Vine idea.
Yes.
And they said, oh snap.
Yep.
Oh, anyway, keep going. Fine.
Fun little fact, Shawn Mendes, I was his very first radio interview. So I think he was like 15 or something or younger. I can't remember how old he was, but if you Google or if you look it up on YouTube, Shawn Mendes, Radio Disney, I'm sure you could find the entire interview. I mean, he was a child. And it's so cool to see all of these kids, like these kid stars, like just grow up. Like now Shawn Mendes is a grown man doing jockey billboards in Nashville, you know? And it's just like, what?
It's crazy.
I think the cool thing for me with that phase of my life is I never had a big sister. I always was the big sister to my siblings and to my little sisters. So I always had that kind of like big sister persona where I want to be a good role model for people. I want to be there for advice. And working for Disney at the time was such a cool experience because I was literally that big sister role model for all of these kids. Even some of the artists like Sabrina Carpenter, like I saw that girl 4 or 5 times a week. So like we developed a relationship and I saw her all the time. And then, you know, there's all these artists that just continued to grow up in front of your eyes. And it's just like, you literally grow up with them. So it's just really cool. I mean, it was a cool part of my life and it's definitely way different than it is now because country music is just, there's such a different vibe. You walk into a studio and like the artist is genuinely happy to see you.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? You're talking about all these celebrities and musicians growing up. You grew up inside being who you are today in the Big 98. And you are just, I mean, obviously I've seen just within me following you within a year, man, I've seen your growth on not only just being open to people, being honest to people, changing other people's view on things. And I think it's, I can only imagine what you were like back then. I mean, I'm sure you're the exact same person, but how much have you felt like you've grown since coming to Nashville?
I mean, I definitely feel like I've grown a lot. I mean, I became a mom. I got married.
Hey, you know that deserves that.
Those are 2 big, humongous life changes. And I think you don't know what you don't know, right? Like when I lived in LA, I was making the most money that I ever made in my entire life. I was, you know, my early mid 20s and I was just living the dream, as they call it, right? I was on red carpets. I was doing interviews literally 7-8 times a week. I was always in the studio. I was living in Hollywood. You know, I could go and walk down Hollywood Boulevard whenever I wanted to. You were seeing celebrities all the time. We were going to movie premieres and movie junkets and things like that. Like I was doing some really awesome things. but I was so empty personally. Like there was no...
Sounds like LA.
Well, and I had good friends, but they were all friends I made through work. And I do still talk to some of them, but it wasn't like some of the friendships that I have now where it's like we do life together. Like when I was in LA, like me and my friends, we would have nights on the couch and stuff like that. But like we went out and partied, and that was
the goal.
Yeah.
That was the end goal.
Exactly. Whenever we did anything, it was just like, how much alcohol can we bring? And it was just like that phase of life, which I'm sure a lot of people go through. But I grew like being there in that point of my life, and then being here now where I feel like I have roots, and we planted roots here, and we just bought a house in January. I'm like, I'm a whole adult.
Come on, you're just, but you know, it's the evolution, right? It's
right.
Now here's this funny thing. I was talking to this about Southern Grist yesterday, and I said, you know what's scary is as we get older, obviously people are getting older as well.
Yeah.
And I think a good year now is when I don't get a call all year about something happening with someone that I know.
Yeah.
That is a great year to me. That's how I quantify a great year now.
Yeah.
But it's because we're getting older.
And that's okay. A lot of people, it's so funny because one of my girlfriends was like, well, I'm 37. And I'm like, so? Why? What is your age matter?
40 is sexy, baby.
That's what I'm saying.
When you hit 40, you just turn sexy.
Well, and it's like 40 back in, 20 years ago, 40 felt old. Right?
Yeah.
40 now is like you're in your prime.
Yeah.
You're doing things that you never thought you could do.
You're in your prime right now. Stop it now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I am.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm 35. So it's like, I'm in the sweet spot. Like
Yeah,
I'm happy now. I have a kid.
I'm starting your life.
It's just like these are the times that we all dream of.
Right now, literally. And
Yeah.
speaking about times that we all dream of, I'm not going to let you go without talking about the Swiftie movement that came through Nashville in a storm. And these people know what I'm talking about. If you are watching this from Nashville, my goodness, when Taylor Swift came in her white horse and took over Nissan Stadium,
Bro.
we couldn't do anything in this town.
Nope.
The locals.
Yep.
Talk to me before we talk about the experience of being in the stadium, because you were there.
Yeah.
And you were also giving away an amazing ticket to a family.
Yeah.
That was dope.
That was really fun.
But just talk to me about the influx of Swifties taking over Nashville.
So what's funny is this is like a very behind the scenes moment, but my husband works in merchandise for like different artists in Nashville, and he got approached and was just like, hey, we're looking for people to like be on site during the Taylor Swift shows. And he was like, yeah, cool. I'd love to. That'd be awesome. It's just like when you got work, like, yes, send it my way. So one of the girls who had messaged him, like asking him to be a part of this, was like, I'm just warning you, these fans, they are rabid animals. And I just was like cracking up because I was just like, yeah, they're probably, Swifties, like whatever. They're doing their thing, right? These kids are rabid animals. I'm telling you, these lines for merchandise, and not in a bad way. Like, I know that Swifties, please don't get mad at me for saying that.
Oh, they will too. I know it.
But not in a bad way. They're just passionate fans, which I think is like, it's nothing like we've ever seen.
No.
I mean, there were lines of merch from like 7 a.m. until like 11 p.m. at night, not stopping, which I'm like, that doesn't happen.
No.
And it's just like she's built this like legacy already. And the fact that she can sell out 3 nights back to back to back at Nissan
While it's raining,
staying, and fans stay. And that's the thing is like, if she were to have canceled that show, people would have been devastated because people traveled. Some of these people are from New Zealand and Canada and Hawaii coming to Nashville to see Taylor Swift at a hometown show. And it's just like, I mean, it's unlike anything I've seen before. And I will be 100% honest with you. I was not planning on going to the Taylor Swift show. Like, I like Taylor Swift, but like, I don't love Taylor, right? Mm-hmm. And the second I heard she was performing 44 songs, I'm like, what am I going to do for 3.5 hours at a show? I do these all the time. I go to all these different shows, and I feel like I get jaded at some points where I'm like, I don't know if I want to be there. But one of my really good friends, she lives in Denver. She got a part of like the raffle. She got tickets for the Nashville show. She was like, will you come with me? And I was just like, if you're coming to visit, like, I'm coming with you. Like, we're going to have a fun weekend about it.
Of course.
And we went, and I mean, it was unbelievable.
Was it that? So it was that special?
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not a fan of Taylor Swift, the just the intricacy of the things that she does on stage and just every little detail, there's nothing left. Like the lighting, the props, the costumes, her singing 44 songs. Like
incredible.
Sitting here talking for an hour, your voice is going to feel,
Oh, we don't even do that. We take breaks too.
Challenging, but 44 songs, that is insane. And she does it back to back to back and then goes to sleep for 4 days and then does it back to back to back again. And it's just like, I mean, shout out to
Taylor Swift.
Shout out to Taylor, man.
Now, I'm curious about this. So I was thinking about this with my girlfriend while we were trying to just get brunch that Sunday. It was impossible to get brunch. Now, I realized why Taylor Swift had that type of growth. It's because her music she started with, started young, right? When you were in LA, right? That's kind of when she started.
She was on the radio when I first started in 2011.
Okay.
I remember Back to December was the first Taylor Swift song I ever played like in my radio career. And that was in 2011.
And so you think about, we were a little older then, so it didn't hit us like that.
Right.
But what it did is that it kept growing, the fan base, right? So now the fans are just a little bit younger than us.
Yeah.
Now, what's even crazier about Taylor Swift though, is that the music that she makes is still attracting the kids that are in 6th grade. So it's like this legion of people that are just keep on growing with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift her music is, it sounds corny, but timeless because
100%.
It keeps going back. It's not going forward. It's not like she's not attracting the older crowd. She's attracting the younger crowd, which keeps growing her fan base.
Well, and it's funny that her shows it was the Eras tour, right? Is the tour that she's on. It was so awesome in the audience to see literally the eras that were there. Like there were older women, there were middle-aged women, there were, young women, there were teenagers, there were young kids. And I'm like, the fact that it's like this big family moment to where like some girls are like best friends going to a concert, let's go. And then it's other times where I had friends taking their daughters and like their daughters sobbing, crying, watching Taylor Swift perform. And I'm like, nobody else is doing that.
Michael Jackson style.
Literally.
Man. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yep. Now, obviously so I'm so happy we talked about that Taylor Swift comment. Hold on real quick. We'll be right back with Brooke Taylor. Now, talk to me about Backstage.
Yes.
Backstage with Brooke.
So this is so funny. My husband for the last like 5 years has been like, anytime that we do something at home or we're doing an interview, like he'll come and have to like shoot an interview or do something with me and he'll be like, Backstage with Brooke. Like he just is like always being funny about it. And it just kind of has like sat back there for a little while. And I didn't have that branding or I really want people to see behind the scenes of like what we do, because you have an interview and you're like, oh, tell me about your new song, tell me about your new album, tell me about this. But I was doing a podcast where it was very faith-based, where it was just like telling artist testimonies and things like that, which I love. And I still continue to like, have those conversations with people. But I felt like that really like niched me down to such a small audience to where you can't have certain artists on there because maybe they don't have a faith base or they don't believe in God or whatever, which is fine. But I just wanted to like kind of open up the conversation to everyone. And really Backstage with Brooke kind of was born where it's like, I want to be your all access pass to Music City. I want you to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want you to see the grind that it takes to do what these artists are doing every day. And not just like A-level artists. Like I want to talk to business owners. I want to talk to influencers. I want to talk to artists that aren't quite there yet or that are at the very bottom and like struggling to even like break through. Mm-hmm. And those conversations to me are so important because a lot of people through social media or even just like hearing someone's song, they're like, oh, it must be nice to be famous, or, oh, it must be nice to do what you do. But they don't see like the blood, sweat, and the tears that got them there. And I think that those stories are so important because it's so human. Like we get to see this like celebrity aspect of people all the time, but we don't ever really get to see the human part of them. Mm-hmm. And those are just the conversations that I really want to have with people.
Well, I think that you are just really showing off, just like you're not showing off. You're presenting people in the way that is not always interviewed.
Yeah.
And I think that is so hard to do. But obviously, if there's going to be someone that's great at doing it, you are great at just not only articulating yourself, but you also ask the right questions.
Thanks.
I'm curious, with Backstage with Brooke, what has been your favorite guest thus far?
Gosh. Okay. So she was my first guest on the podcast, but Hardy's wife, Callie, Callie is like a bubble, like, or like, she's just like this big ball of joy. Anytime she walks into the room, like you say this about me, like if I walk in the room, you get excited and like happy. Callie is that. Like she is, I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about her. She's always got a smile on her face. She is so sweet. She is just like a little firecracker. She's awesome. I love her.
So what was it about the conversation that you guys had that you just loved?
I mean, she just kind of like told us about like her relationship with Michael, which is Hardy, that just kind of like how they met. And we don't get to see that side, you know, it's just like she's Callie, Hardy's wife, but we don't get to see her as just like Callie. And I wanted people to know her and her story and like what her dreams are and like what her aspirations are. Because when you get into this industry or even, you know, any Hollywood industry, you become such and such's person, right? Okay, well, you're just that person. You do this. And like Callie has her own dreams and goals and things that she loves to do. And I love that she got to tell us about those things and got to just kind of explain things that she really is passionate about. She's obviously passionate about Hardy's music and like being his #1 supporter and fan, but seeing her just like open up about what she went to school for and like what, you know, she wants to like what mark she wants to make in the world. I think it's just an important, you know, platform to be able to
put all together.
Yeah.
Now, what about for you? What is a guest? I was gonna say ghost. What is a guest that you're looking forward to? You know, down the pipeline, or someone that you striving to get?
Oh gosh, I mean, this is like not to sound like I've like interviewed the A-list artists, right?
You've
like,
done it already.
We've done all like, and that's what I do. And I love my job. I just honestly want to be a platform for people to be real and to inspire other people. So my big heart when I first moved to Nashville, I don't know why, but I just have a heart for like artist wives and like their stories and what they go through, because I have friends that are artist wives and they go through more challenging things than anyone would ever expect. And it comes from a spot of, you know, people are like, well, it must be nice to have a famous husband, or it must be, and there's so much that goes into it, especially in the music industry when it comes to like fans. They don't care. They'll send a DM with no shame. Don't care if you have kids. Don't care if you have a husband. You know what I mean? Or a wife. And like just the grueling touring schedule. Like friends have artist husbands that aren't there for the first 6 weeks of, you know, their kid being born because they're on the road. And the amount of time that they don't get with their spouse because of it. And it's like artists don't get to really share that side of the story too. And I think it's important for fans to know the level of like just what they sacrifice and those hard times, because that's what makes your relationship. It'll either make or break your relationship. It's going to make it stronger or it's going to crumble. And I think just having the platform to tell the stories, I feel like artists' wives are kind of like I love that. I want them to be able to tell their story.
You talk about having a very unique take on things. I think that is so unique that I've never thought of that. I can't. So that's amazing. If you're continuing to go down that path, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be some great stories there.
Oh, 100%.
Now my question is, so you're still with the Big 98.
Yeah.
That's the day job that gets the bills paid. Now, I've always wondered this. Now that you're also creating, you know, Backstage with Brooke, and that is in a weird way very similar in not only on the radio, but now you also have a brand that you're building yourself. Is there conflicts of interest there? Does it hurt anything?
Not at all. I mean, my podcast is housed within iHeart, so it's part of the umbrella. And then all of my content that I get from my podcast, I can use on my shows. So it kind of works together. But yeah, no conflict of interest. It's just, you know, as long as I'm doing my work first, podcast second, then that's when it kind of stays there. Okay, good. That's what I was wondering. I was like, man, I would hate for there to be any kind of conflict there, because there's just what you do for work, and let's talk about that. Yeah. So obviously we were talking about Taylor Swift a while ago, but what you did with the Big 98 and blessing someone with some free tickets to see Taylor Swift, and you did a great video on it.
on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what that must have felt like. How did you feel giving away? And I'm sure you give away plenty of things.
Yeah.
You gave me and my girlfriend plenty of awesome swag.
Yeah.
From just going, you went into the dungeon back there.
The dungeon. Yeah. The merchandise
iHeart.
dungeon. Yes.
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's funny because you would think that when people ask me the question, what's the best part of your job? Like, what's your favorite part? You know, you would expect the answer of like, I get to interview artists. I get to go to all these concerts. I get to be backstage, right? And like, that used to be my favorite part because it was, you know, new and shiny and whatever. But always consistently, my favorite part is giving other people an experience that they never get. Like, my husband loves coming to shows with me, but he will be like, if you have a friend that really wants to go, take them. So like, if I have a friend that really wants to go see whoever, I'll take them. And like, my favorite thing is to watch them literally have the time of their lives. Like a couple months ago, my mom has been begging me, when Luke Combs comes to town, I want to go to the show. And my parents, they drive a semi truck for a living. So like, you never know when they're going to be available. It's like whenever they're not on the road. So my mom calls me like a week before the Luke Combs show at Nissan Stadium. She was like, can I still come with you? And my husband, Andrew, was like, yeah, take your mom. She'll have the best time of her life. My mom met Lainey Wilson backstage. She had the literal time of her life. And those videos and those memories that I made with my mom that day are going to be core memories forever. Exactly. And I want those, I want people to make those memories. So we had these 3 tickets for Taylor Swift. And it was crazy because we usually have like 4, right? Usually you have a group of 2 tickets, but we only had 3 left for whatever reason.
Oh, come on. It's the hottest. It was the hottest ticket in probably 1,000 miles from there.
So we were like, what can we do with these tickets to change people's lives? And originally we were going to upgrade the seats. So we were going to go inside Nissan Stadium, go to the very top and get somebody from up top and bring them down closer to the stage. And then I'm over here like, there are literally thousands of people on the pedestrian bridge that don't have tickets, that can't afford tickets, that are gonna listen and try and watch the show from here.
Talk about the top of the stadium. Try the people that aren't on the stadium on a bridge.
Yes,
just
literally
to listen.
On the pedestrian bridge. I mean, people had coolers, they had chairs camped out, and I go, we're not doing this inside, we're gonna do it right here. And so me and a group of girls, we were just like, we need to find somebody that looks like there's just 3 of them. And I kid you not, like we were walking and we were like, this is gonna be so hard, this is gonna be so hard. And it was just like a ray of light was like coming from this area. And it's so weird because I'm a very spiritual person, so like I believe in God and that he will give you signs and things like that. And I just like lock eyes with this mom, and that she's got 2 girls sitting next to her, and one of the girls just like on her phone, the other
waiting for the show to start.
Yeah, the other girl's kind of like arms crossed, not really looking like she's in a good mood. And so I asked my friend Maggie, I was like, go ask them if they have tickets. So she goes over to them, she was like, hey, you guys have bracelets? Because you know they do the friendship bracelets. You guys have bracelets? Like, are you guys going to the show? And the mom was like, no, tickets are too expensive, like we've been looking for them, but they're starting at like $800 a piece. And she's just like, absolutely not.
Of course.
So I walk over to them and like, I'm like, you guys want to go? Like, hey, I'm Brooke from the Big 98. Like, we've got these tickets. Like, you guys are going to go to the show. And I mean, they were shocked at first, but like when the camera stopped rolling, like we didn't get all of the reaction. I mean, this little girl's crying, like, this is my dream to see Taylor Swift. And the mom is like messaging me on Instagram and stuff. And it's so funny that I said like, God, you know, gives you signs and stuff like that, because the mom was I had gone to the mom's Instagram page because she tagged me in some videos of them at the show. And the post before, like she even got the tickets from us, was like, praying for God for a miracle. My girls really want to see Taylor Swift, but it looks like we're going to have to watch it from the pedestrian bridge because I just can't afford tickets. Financially, it's just not in it for us. And it was this whole post about like believing God's going to give a miracle. And I literally walk up to these girls and give them free tickets. Like, what?
Dude, that's crazy.
If you don't believe in God, like, I'm sorry. But it was a really, really cool experience. It was awesome.
And like you said, you're impacting other people's lives. And not only from doing that gesture, right? It's also your voice, and how powerful it is that you have the opportunity to be on, you know, what time is your show every day?
It's 10 to 3.
10 to 3 every day. And the fact is that you have the ability to affect people's mood while they're driving in the car. Now, I get that not everyone has a car that puts on the radio anymore.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the people that do use the radio are hearing your voice and hearing your, you know, just your energy kind of comes out of the mic. So how does that feel to know that there's people that you do not know that look to you and listen to the Big 98 for you?
Yeah. Well, we have this really cool feature on the iHeartRadio app where you can like basically send a voice memo. So like if you're texting, you know how you have that option to like send a voice memo to each other. You can do that through the iHeartRadio app and it'll like be delivered to like my screen in the studio. And I will get messages every once in a while that are just like, not requesting a song, not trying to win a contest. I want to say thank you for making my day better. I was having a bad day today and you talked about this, or, you know, I do a part of my show called Daily Quotes, which I post on my Instagram too. But that's a segment in my show where I'm like, you might not want to hear this, but you're going to hear this from me. It's kind of like a positive spot in the day. And I give my daily quotes. And sometimes people will send me a message on Instagram. Like, I literally was on the brink of like quitting my job today. I needed to hear exactly what you had to say. And it's just like, those little moments don't happen by accident. I believe that I was ordained by, you know, God to have this mic and use it for purpose. And I don't ever want to lose that. I always want to be a positive light in someone's life. And like, my thing too is like, we don't have to agree on the same things. Like, I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat. I don't care if you believe in God or you don't believe in God. I don't care what your walk of life is. I just want to be a bright spot in your day.
Dude,
and that's it.
Hey, speaking of, that is facts, because I'll tell you this right now. I was, so yesterday, last 2 days were tough on me. Tough on just having, you know what it's like to be on air and have to use your voice and personality every time these cameras are on. And I was telling her this when she walked into the studio. I was just like, man, I literally just, until like 30 minutes before you came, I was in the shower, just quiet as can be, just like, under the hot, just like, how the hell am I going to do this today? I'm not in the mood today. Yeah. And the moment I see you, it was like a moment of like seeing a good friend of mine. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be good. Yeah. And then so it's so crazy to say that you have that energy. And I think that comes across, and it's genuine energy.
Yeah. I mean, that truly means the world to me. Like, I never want to be a person that feels like they're better than somebody or feels like they're unapproachable. I just want people to smile. Like, I mean, there's so much negativity. There's so much just yucky stuff in this world right now. And it's like, if I can be a small part of the bright joy in the world, that's all I want to do. All
right. Well, let me give you some quick questions before we go on to your crowd noise questions. So quick questions. So since Nashville is, you know, home of country music and has so many celebrities walking by, tell me a story where you were not expecting to see someone who was well known, but, you know, just happened to be in the right place at the right time, because that happens a lot here in Nashville.
That actually happened. So Carrie Underwood, when she was playing Bridgestone Arena, my husband was doing merchandise at the show. So he's helping offload like boxes and stuff. And I had to like go. I was there with him for some reason. I can't remember. My daughter was there, and we were just kind of like walking outside while he was, you know, taking stuff off the boxes. And across the street, I see Jelly Roll in like sweatpants, a sweatshirt, and his like
yesterday,
and his like walking shoe, and he's just like walking, like doing steps or whatever. And I was just like, what are the chances? You know, and it's just like in Nashville that happens so much where you just walk and you see someone. It's so crazy.
I cannot believe that I saw Jelly Roll yesterday. After I was done filming here today, I went to go get some sushi with my last guest, and we're walking. I didn't even know that he was performing at the Ryman yesterday. Yeah. And as we're walking, we're just walking through the Ryman, and guess who goes into his big truck?
Jelly Roll. Yep.
And he had lines, and we know who Jelly Roll has become.
He's hometown guy. This is his
hometown guy, and his story. And I didn't watch the Hulu yet.
Yeah.
But I already knew about his story, and everyone talks so highly of Jelly Roll.
Yeah.
But so that's a good example. But I mean, also talk to me about some of the funny mistakes that may have happened on stage or when you were having a mic in your hand. Talk to me about the mistakes that you've made.
So it's funny because I know a lot of people get really embarrassed about mistakes, right? And I feel like mistakes are what make you who you are, right? Like one of my mentors told me back in the day, you have to fail harder. You know, making a mistake only sets you up for more success, and you can't be successful without failure. So it's like you got to fail a little bit harder, keep failing, and then you'll get to where you want to go. But I mean, there's countless times where I've been on the radio and I've said the wrong radio station name before live on the air. Because it's like, I mean, if you have a job, right, and you do it for 2.5 years and then you move to a new station, you're just like cued, you know.
You have the like your intros.
Yes.
You're just used to it.
Yeah. I remember specifically, I had just moved out of LA and I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I get on the air and I'm on a country station and I say, Radio Disney, whoops. And it was live on the air. And my boss walks in the studio. He's like,
we're on Radio Disney now?
He was like, that's funny. Like, it's like everybody knows. And as long as you're not doing that mistake like every single day, but it happens. And that's the beauty of being a human. Like, AI's taken over the world. All these robots are taking over the world. And it's just like, I am a human being and I will make mistakes. And even if I'm recording something like on my podcast or wherever.
Yeah, how do you deal with that?
I don't edit out the mistakes.
You don't at all?
I mean, there'll be some times where like if a guest wants to edit out the ums and the uhs and like the big like long pauses, I'll edit those out. But like if I make a mistake or if I hit the microphone, I'm not going to edit it out because it just makes you who you are.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Now, I cannot say that I do not take out my mistakes.
Yeah.
I do take out my mistakes because these people don't give these people do not care necessarily about me. They really want to learn about you. So when I make mistakes, I take it out because it just shortens the video a little bit a little shorter so people can enjoy talking to you.
Totally.
Now, question about just outside of Nashville and, the amazing people that we can meet in Nashville. I mean, talk to me about funny stories about being in a different market and how, listening to different artists, having interviews with different artists. I mean, what are some of the fun stories that you can tell me about an artist?
I mean, I feel like it's funny because if you live in Nashville, like we have access to literally everybody. Like everybody lives here, right?
You can get a text from your phone and my phone now is crazy.
Yeah, it's like if you want to interview somebody, like you just got to email the right person and they'll hook you up with the interview, right?
Like that.
But if you're in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you're in the middle of, cornfields. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have access. And it's funny because, when the world shut down in 2020, video chats and video calls and video interviews, Zoom interviews, things like that became more and more popular. But before that, the best you could get was a phone interview. So I remember in Fort Wayne, I would do an interview with Brian Kelly and Tyler Hubbard from Florida Georgia Line on the phone, thinking it was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just talked to RTL. This is amazing. And like now it's like hosting their iHeartCountry album release party. Like, what? It's just crazy to like go back to those moments where I was first starting in country music and I'm like, I just talked
to this person.
And then fast forward 6 years and I'm on stage in New York hosting their album release party. I'm like, this is just, I can't.
It's crazy. Right? And speaking about hosting, can you imagine when we had this conversation earlier this year, our conversation was mainly about 2022.
Yeah.
And in that time, what I was so amazed, it was around this time last year, you hosted the Carrie Underwood because Carrie Underwood's tour was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And talk to you about the Rhinestones.
Denim and Rhinestones, yeah.
And you got it on right now.
Yeah.
What was it like to do the Backstage tour? When you were doing the event, you can see that the days are catching up to me now. When you did the event where you got to present yourself on stage there.
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. She had her album coming out, obviously, so we got to do her album release party. And like, Carrie Underwood's one of those people where it's like, I mean, she's a superstar.
Yeah, she's right. I would say right underneath Taylor Swift, crazy enough to say that, but she is there.
Being in her presence and really just being a part of something that's special to her was really cool to be a part of. And people don't ever get to see, behind the scenes of like her life. And I just have so much empathy for her as a mom, being a working mother that is providing for her family. Obviously her husband does too, but you have kids and then you're expected to go on this like huge tour because that's your job, right? That's what you're passionate about and that's what you want to do. I, as a small, tiny piece of the puzzle in radio, I have so much mom guilt when I'm gone for 4 hours.
Constantly thinking about them,
yes. Right? And to have her stage and platform and what she does, I have so much empathy for her. And also I'm just like, she's a badass.
Yeah.
She's crushing it as a mother. She's crushing it as a wife. And she's crushing it in her career. And I'm like, being so small a part of something that is so special to her was awesome because I looked to her as like a peer saying like, you go girl, like you're crushing it. And like nobody, you don't understand that feeling unless you are a mom and you're in an industry where you're just like, this is hard. Spending time away from your kid is hard. Spending time away from your family is hard. Not being able to sleep in your own bed, I can imagine. So it was a really, really cool experience to kind of like just be a part of something, but also like look at her and be like, hell yeah.
You know, when you get to that level, now granted, nothing feels better than laying on your bed every day in your home
100%.
that you build everything on, right? But I'm curious because when you're at Carrie Underwood's level, I don't think you're staying in a bus anymore.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh, you're still staying on a bus at that level?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That level is bus life. Like,
well, I would think that you would have hotels at that point.
Oh, no, you're on a bus. Yeah. But the bus life for her is like, she has a private bus.
Yeah.
So she's got, and I mean,
she's got a real bed and
private buses. She's got a queen bed in the back. She's got her own bathroom. She's got her own like get ready.
Wow.
Table.
I didn't think that level of, superstar would still be on a bus.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's actually like you would think it's like, so you start in like rental cars.
A car, yeah.
Then you get to van life, and then you get to like the little bigger van life, and then you get to like renting the bus, and then you get to owning the bus and designing it yourself. And Carrie's got her own bus. She's got a mobile gym that comes like in a semi-trailer.
Well, she has to, with her legs looking amazing like that. And that's real life, because I remember at the CMA Fest last year, we were lucky enough to be in the front row.
Yeah.
And we got a 6-1, I think it was 615 or something like that. Hooked us up with some great tickets. And my goodness, when I saw that lady come out, and everyone says it's true, man, her fitness is on point.
Well, and it's like a huge part of her life, and it's something that she does every day. Like, I know Tim McGraw does the same thing too. Like, Tim McGraw with his tour, like he has mandatory like workouts with his crew every day. He's like, if you're gonna be a part of this team, you're gonna be fit and you're gonna feel good about yourself. And Carrie Underwood will get her workout in every day, and it's just like, technically you would say like she doesn't need to, because she's doing a 90-minute show every night, which that in itself is cardio and crazy.
Yeah, that's hard.
But it's such a big part of her life. And I mean, I think it's so great that she continues to stick to that routine, because same like I said, like this industry can chew you up and spit you out as fast as you get into it, because you can lose yourself in having all the fun and doing all the things. But she sticks to her routine. She sticks to like seeing her family when she can see her family. And
awesome. Speaking of getting into the routine, we have a routine here called Crowd Noise to ask, where fans ask you questions. But last question I got is, so obviously you live in a town where there is, like you talked about the vans going up and down the levels.
Yeah.
There are levels of musicians here. Who does Brooke Taylor see right now who is starting to gain some momentum? And who do you see really picking it up within the next year? Because all it takes in Nashville now is a year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's just so many talented people, and I'm trying to even just like think. Avriana, I think, is unreal. I think her voice is incredible. I just had Charlie Reynolds on my podcast.
Shout out to Charlie Reynolds. She's on season 3 for us.
Yeah, I love her. And I mean, she's got an incredible voice, and I think she's trying to break into that. But I mean, it's just such a hard industry to like get into. And I know that, Brian Kelly, him and Florida Georgia Line, like they decided to like do their own solo career. And I think his new stuff is just great. I think that this is going to be a new wave for him, which I'm really excited about. There's so many good people in the industry right now. Like I can't even think about off the top of my mind, but it's just like this town is so special, because regardless of if they have a record deal or not, you're going to see talent literally everywhere.
Everywhere. Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, speaking of talent and other people, let's get down to crowd noise. You ready?
Yes.
Let's go to crowd noise. Talk about being real.
100%.
Hey, Brooke, since you work in radio, do you ever get tired of listening to the same top 20 country hits every day?
You know what? I get this question a lot, and the answer, honestly, like honest to God, is no. So you would think that I'm in the studio listening to all the songs that I'm playing, but like I was just saying, there's always so many moving parts to what I'm doing. So it's like, once I finish my thought, like whatever thing I'm talking about in between songs, the volume is down and I'm doing something else waiting for my next talk break. So I'm not ever really listening to the music. And if I am listening to the music, it's in the background while I'm doing other things. So I'm not necessarily like sitting there jamming out to a song that I like. It's like business.
You
right?
said there's a formula.
Yeah.
There's a formula to this.
Yes. And there's a formula to when music is played, because it's like the average listener. Say you're in the car, you're going to an errand, and you're going to be in the car having your attention on what's going on in the radio for about 7 to 8 minutes.
Two songs.
That's the formula, right? So our thought process is, not everybody's listening all day while they're working. Not everybody's on an hour and a half car ride. So it's like you're hearing these repeated songs because you're listening for such like longer time. Mm-hmm. So it's like we are catering to these people that we can keep for the 7 or 8 minutes. And it's like, if we're not playing their favorite song or a song that they love, they're going to turn the channel. So it's like, there really is a science behind it all. And if you're interested in that, hit me in the DMs and I'll explain it more. But we play the same songs for a reason.
Can you get requests on the DMs?
Yeah, you can send me a request in the DMs all the time. You can send in requests on the iHeartRadio app. It literally comes to like my Brooke Taylor folder, like in this like system that we have within iHeart. So you can send me a voice memo. You can hit me in the DMs always. I am very like psychopathic about responding to all of my DMs. So
what is, and you are really good at responding to your DMs. Very true. Now, but luckily I got your phone number, so now I can just hit you up personally.
Yeah, now you can just bother me whenever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm curious about this because since you listen to so much music every day, or you know, that's your job.
Yeah.
What's been one of the best ever performances you've seen from a song you've heard on the radio and you saw live, and you would tell more people, man, if you have the chance to see this artist live instead of just listening to his song on the radio, what artist would it be?
Okay, so this actually happened at CRS, and I could probably pull up the text message between me and my husband. And CRS it's country radio seminar. So basically it's like where all these radio people come to Nashville and have this big seminar, and then artists will perform. And Jackson Dean performed his one of his songs. Well, he performed like 4 songs, but you hear music and we're in the middle of dinner, we're eating, we're doing whatever, and he's performing, and there's other artists performing. And then he comes on the stage and performs this song called Fearless. And the way that the entire room stopped, like,
yeah, that's how you know.
Stopped, forks and knives were down. Everybody was just like staring at the stage. I don't know what it was about that performance, but if you can see Jackson Dean live, he's incredible. Like, he's just good. And I feel the same way about Lainey Wilson. Like, the girl is just unstoppable.
Right now is her moment.
Yeah.
Her and Jelly Roll's moment.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that Lainey Wilson is one of those people that you saw grow in Nashville, and Nashville just slowly let them grow. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, they just started saying, okay, it's her time. Mm-hmm. And they bring her up to the stage. Same with Jelly Roll.
Lainey is just kind. She's such a good person. And I think what's great about her is she's really stayed true to who she is. Yeah. She's funny. She's so unbelievably talented. And just to see her in the past like 6 months, win a couple ACM awards, just, be on the road, and just her performing live. She opened up for Luke Combs at Nissan Stadium, that show we went to with my mom. And she's unreal. Like, I cannot wait for her and the rest of her career, because where she's going, like,
it's going to be next level.
Up. Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly right. But so is yours. And that's one thing that I love seeing every day. Now, we got another question here. Let me see what this question says.
Brooke, who has been the biggest influence and mentor in this radio career?
My biggest influence and mentor. My second job in Fort Wayne, Indiana, my boss, Phil Becker, I always call him like a radio genius. That man, the way his mind thinks is always like 7 steps ahead of everybody else. And he works for a different company now. But when I was in Fort Wayne, it was my second radio job. I was learning the ins and outs of radio. I didn't know a lot. I knew a little bit. I was only in for 2 years. So on my 3rd year of like entering this business, he literally held my hand the whole way. Taught me everything I needed to know about programming, about promotions, about artist relations, about, building my brand. And he was very, very adamant about, who do you want to be? I don't want you to be who I want you to be. Who is Brooke Taylor? And like, what is she going to do in this world? And he really helped me establish that, like, me on the radio as a personality is a brand. Like, it is who I am. And he really helped me captivate that. And really, I mean, to this day, like we stay in touch and we'll talk every once in a while. And like the man is a genius. Like,
I love that.
Yeah.
And shout out to him. And I'm curious, who is, so I think everyone in business and elsewhere, they always have like little spots that they see that they want to reach to.
Yeah.
And like I said, we were talking before this thing was rudely interrupted about how, you know, you have right next to your studio is Bobby Bones,
Yeah.
which Bobby Bones will probably go into the Radio Hall of Fame.
100%.
And who are you looking at that inspires you to continue progressing in not only your radio career, your personality career, and just being you? Who really inspires you today that you're looking at?
I don't know if there's one specific person. I feel like, you know, I've heard it before, like, oh, you could be the next Bobby Bones or you could be the next Ryan Seacrest. And it's just like, that's fine. But like, I don't want to be that. Like, my goal is not to host a morning show. Like, I don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. I don't think that sounds fun at all. Maybe one day in the future, but like in the next 5 years, like I just don't see that happening.
Well, we'll see what they're talking with a little bit of money.
But I mean, I think there's so many people in the industry that are just like really big champions for each other. And I can't think of like people specifically, but I know like my coworkers, for example, like we have each other's backs. Like we have a group chat going and we're like, hey, you're crushing it. Like, hey, good job. Like stuff like that. And having your peers and then also, you know, other girls in different markets that will like talk to each other and like give each other advice about, I think is really important. But I mean, like my goals and my dreams are so different than just like so niched into radio. Like I want to host my podcast live on a stage for people to like come watch in person.
You would
like,
kill. You would kill at that.
You know, like stuff like that is like stuff that is on my vision board. Like that kind of stuff is on my vision board. And I know like Amy Brown from the Bobby Bones Show, like she just did a live podcast down at the Franklin Theater, I think a couple months ago. And like I went to it and it was just like, she is definitely someone that I look up to, saying like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be in front of people and making a difference, because her Four Things podcast, like, I mean, she talks about things that nobody will talk about, which is so awesome, and things that you might not have even thought about before. So I love watching her and kind of see her like brand expand beyond Bobby's show, because like, at the end of the day, it is his show, and she kind of has this thing that she can own. And I admire her for that. And I think I want to do that one day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I always end the show in two ways. Before we get to your day in the life that we filmed already, so I feel great. I'm excited for everyone to see this the week after CMA Fest.
Yes.
You'll already be out there talking to everyone, shaking hands and kissing babies. But now, and it'll be even cooler to see you the next week on our platform.
Yes, 100%.
Now, but I always end the show two ways. And the same way I do is always asking about, how do you deal with hate? How do you deal with harsh criticism? How do you stay above it? How do you not let it get to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, it's hard these days, especially social media. Everybody's got something to say. But I think that the hateful, mean people are so much louder than the nice people. And I think that's how I always have to, you just really have to remember that, because I always say, when you go to a restaurant and you have a terrible experience, that's when you want to leave a Google review or a Yelp review, right? It's not like, oh, I went there and we loved this, and you want to just like take the time. It's never that way. So it's like these hateful comments or mean, rude people, or people who just like don't have a boundary, because there are those on social media. There's this person specifically that will always comment on my fitness journey, like, are you eating well? Are you making sure that you're being consistent in your routine? And I'm like, what does it matter to you? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, what is my fitness and my food schedule have to do with your life? But it's like, you just have to, I never respond. I think that is one way that I just combat it, because it's just like, you want to respond, and whenever you react in those ways is when you come off. You know, everybody has their moments where I'm just like, I just want to say what I want to say. But once that's what they want, like the hateful comments and those people that are just mean, they want a reaction from you, because that's when they want to screenshot and post or whatever. And I think that there are some aspects where if somebody is just being downright like rude, disrespectful, like you can say something, but usually like I don't have to. Like, people will come to my defense for me, like in the comments or like whatever. But I think it's just realizing and remembering that the hateful comments are going to be louder than the nice ones.
Well, you know what, and I'm glad it doesn't get you down. And obviously gets us all down sometimes. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
But I think it's amazing that, you know, the energy that you put out in this world and on your platforms. And once again, make sure they know what the platforms are.
Brooke Radio, literally everywhere. BROOKE Radio. Yep.
Now, everything you put on your platforms is nothing but really positivity. And if there is any kind of like doubt or, you know, little down days, you share it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you so real. And I love that. Okay. And then my last question.
Yeah.
It is the middle of 2023. We recorded our first time ever in the top of 2023.
Yeah.
So we got another half of 2023 to go and the top of 2024. What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I hopefully want to have another baby. My husband, Andrew, and I were ready for number 2. So I'm hoping within the next 6 months, I'll be pregnant again. Cross my fingers. You heard it here first.
You ready?
I'm ready for baby number 2. Wow. I really want to, I think by next year, I want to have a schedule of, and I'm putting it out there, I want to do my podcast live on stages in Nashville, in other cities potentially, but I want to do it live. I think it would be really cool to like have those moments, and it doesn't have to happen. I'm not trying to do a tour or anything, but I think it'd be really fun to, you know, have a moment where an artist and I can really sit down and just be honest on stage live in front of people. I think it would be really cool.
Oh, well, if you ever need a number 2 or just a guy to record you, I'm more than happy to always do that, because you are always a joy to be around. And I'm excited to see how you take your career from not only being amazing in radio, but now putting your own brand to it, putting your own spin to it, and not having any restraints on what you can say.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see it. And I know they're excited to see it too. So you know what we're going to see is your day in the life.
Yeah.
Now, the way that we tee it off every time on the show is you look straight into that camera, you say your name, and you say, this is how I walk the line.
Okay.
And we're going to go to your day in the life. You ready to roll?
Yep.
All right. After the applause and...
Hey, y'all. I'm Brooke Taylor, and this is how I walk the line.
Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country, and Brooke Taylor. Geodis Park tomorrow. Nashville SC is having their Man in Black match with these Man in Black jerseys, all to honor and celebrate the life and legacy of Johnny Cash. There's going to be so many special musical performances throughout the night, and I may or may not have a pair of, well, don't record that. Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Taylor. Welcome to the Big 98 Studios. This is how I walk the line. This is our little dungeon area. This is where the proverbial magic happens every day. I get to talk to all of Nashville and a lot of other cities right here in this studio. And it's pretty great because this desk holds a lot of weight when it comes to Nashville. So many of your favorite country music singers have sat right here in this chair. Luke Combs, Carrie Underwood, Jason Aldean, Hardy, Morgan Wallen, just so many of your favorites right here in this chair. So if you want to look at the seat, probably smells like everybody's booties, but you know, it's definitely good stuff. But some of the things here in our studio are pretty awesome. We have several CMA awards, we have some CRS awards, and we work with St. Jude every single year, and we raise a lot of money for them. So they award us with a plaque each year with just incredible amounts of money that we get to give them every year. So that's pretty cool. And the most important thing that, since I've been in Nashville, is this guy right here. This is our CMA award from this year that we won for Large Market Station of the Year. So if you've never seen a CMA award in real life, this right here, that's what it looks like. It's pretty heavy, it's glass, it's very, very nice.
How does it feel to be in front of this microphone every day?
I feel like being in this room every day is kind of surreal for me. When I first started in radio in 2011, I feel like there was always this like seed inside of me that really wanted to work in Nashville, and knowing that I get to crack this mic every single day and talk to Music City here on Music Row, it's pretty surreal. Being on Music Row is incredible. If you've ever been to Nashville, you've seen all of the golf carts, all of the tours, everything that goes by. So we're actually one of those spots where they're like, hey, there's the Big 98. That's where, you know, Bobby Bones does his show right next door in the next room. And lots of celebrities, artists, like I said, get to come in here. So being on Music Row amongst so many songwriters, record labels, musicians, it's really incredible.
It's Brooke Taylor, and listen, everything is changing so fast these days, and that right there is a great thing. Back in my day, you know, we were lucky if we could get one video to load on our desktop computer, but now there's the Xfinity 10G network. That means the fastest internet with faster speeds rolling out every day, and internet that can power a house full of devices at once with ultra low lag. So while one person streams a movie from their room, another can play video games in the basement while another TikToks in the kitchen. It's the Generation 10G network. It's the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now.
So right here in this building, there are several iHeartMedia studios. We have other stations that are our sister stations, like The River, the Bobby Bones show's next door. There is just our studios, and then upstairs there are like law offices. We kind of just sold this building and we're moving over to a new building on Broadway. So kind of a little work in progress. So this time next year, I'll probably have to invite you back and give you a tour of the new place because it's gonna be awesome. All right, y'all, you saw what I do on a day-to-day basis here in the studio. I appreciate you being here, but my show starts pretty soon, so I gotta go. Get out. It's time for you to leave. Love you guys.